Hey, you. What? Oh,
Who, me?
you're listening. You're listening to that Wildrose Arcade podcast.
Wow.
Don't lie to me. I can see you right there.
We can see
That's
you.
right. And you are. You can't hide it from us.
So hopefully, if everything's going to work out here, we have a new look to our podcast. So let us know in the comments down below how it looks. If it looks the same as it
fancy.
normally does, then it didn't work, and never mind.
No, and it's not fancy.
Yeah.
Just a dumb
Either
old
fancy
line.
or we fucked up.
And, maybe we've made large, noticeable changes. And hopefully it won't start some sort of decline in the product. Like what we're talking about today.
Smooth transition.
Foreshadowing.
So yeah, recently, as was already rumored, Nintendo announced they won't be at E3 2023. So we thought we'd talk about sort of the general decline of E3 in the last few years.
Yeah. Although we're not going to do our what are we playing section, or are we just...
Well, I was getting to that.
Oh, well, never mind then. I should not question the order. This has been pre-planned.
So what is everyone playing?
Well, Nathan's an eager beaver. Why don't we start with him?
Oh,
Sure.
god damn it. Alright, well. That just... Alright, well... Barring my usual games, because we all know I have a few games I constantly play, being mostly Divinity Original Sin, Empire at War, yada yada. I've actually been playing a few new ones lately. One of them is Grounded. I've been playing that with some friends.
Okay.
It's very enjoyable, and it is interesting because it's like seeing the world from a new perspective when you're a tiny little shit running through the grass. I don't know, it's cool. The bees are adorable, and mosquitoes are a fucking nightmare.
I would think being small, a mosquito wouldn't bother you that much.
No.
What are they gonna do? Suck your blood? Like, you're the size of a mosquito.
You'll look like a
Well, that
raisin
just
when
means
you're
that
done.
they can suck you dry.
Yeah, they're not gonna get shit.
Haha, raisins. That's spoilers. Anyways, another game. I actually picked this up yesterday and it is an absolute blast. I like visually and just game-wise, this game it's fun. It's Battle Group VR, and if you ever seen like the end of Ender's Game, when like you're like controlling the fleets by like you have this big visual 3D map and you're like telling your ships where to go and all the stuff is going down. It even has like audio, so you can be like telling one, like lining up one ship to move, and you can yell at another like just like raise your shields or full power to shields or something. This own scream about being shot while you're busy organizing your fleet movements. It's like, shut up and raise your goddamn shields. But yeah, no, Battle Group VR, it's fun. It has Steam Workshop, so people are adding in all these custom ships. The missile barrage that Victory Star Destroyers can do is even more beautiful in VR. And slightly intimidating when you're flying next to that bitch, and it's like, fire missiles! Just watch them swarm. But yeah, and then the third game, which honestly is probably going to become my, it's still early in the year, but I think I've already found a Game of the Year contender for me. But Disco Elysium. My god.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things about that one.
It doesn't surprise me that you'd like it.
So good. Yeah, no, it is... Oh, I'm fucking loving that game. The internal monologue is the most entertaining part for me. And I just love how, like, the different parts of your brain are their own characters. And there's going to be so much goddamn replayability in that game. Ah, I love it. It's such a good game. But yeah, so that's what I've been playing.
Alright, cool. So next up, Tom, what have you been playing?
Um, I guess I'm gonna, since Nathan said 3, I'm gonna jump back a little bit because we haven't done a podcast since I played it. But I really, really, really like the Dead Space remake. It's very good. It perfectly captures the original Dead Space. It has very, very minor changes to the overall narrative, but it actually makes it sync up with the sequels a lot better than the first one originally did. So I hope we get a Dead Space 2 remake, but if we never do, you can still play the remake and then go back to the originals, and there's no jarring disconnect.
Right.
It is just a fantastic survival horror game. The original Dead Space is one of my favorite games, but I think I like the remake way more, but purely just because it does everything the original did and improves upon it. The only change that I don't like, and I am the 1% that doesn't like this. In the original Dead Space, there were points where you were in 0G environments, because obviously you're in space. And how they operated was Isaac's suit had magnetic boots. So you just sort of walk along a surface, and if you had to go to a different side of a room or something like that, you would just look where you wanted to go and then jump, and Isaac would just float in a straight line to the other point where you were looking. In Dead Space 2, they introduced a thruster system where you could basically fly around like Iron Man. And so in the remake, they added in that thruster system so that it's more consistent with how the other games played. I get terrible motion sickness when I'm flying around because all of a sudden the ground is the ceiling, and then you turn in just the right way and now you're on a weird angle, and it's really disorienting. But I imagine that's exactly what it would feel like, because our brains aren't programmed to think that way. We have a clear sense of like up and down. So when you take that away, it's probably very disorienting. So it's not really a knock against the game. It's just there's this very small part of me that preferred the old way just because it didn't make me motion sick. But it's a really minor nitpick. The game also reaffirmed my suspicion that I'm colorblind, because it has a colorblind mode that changes the color palette slightly to make certain things pop more. And when I put it on colorblind mode, I wasn't just blind all the time. So, yeah, I don't need a doctor to diagnose it. Dead Space told me I'm colorblind.
Wow, guys, when I put on this mode, I'm no longer blind.
Dead Space and Futurama told me I'm colorblind.
Wow.
The only other new game to talk about that I've been playing sort of lately, I played it for the first time last night and Rob was present, was I started playing the old Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring game.
Oh, I forgot they made a game.
Well, they made games for all of them. What's interesting is The Fellowship of the Ring is based off of the book, not the movie.
You get Tom Bombadil?
Yes.
Yeah, he actually did show up.
Actually, Tom Bombadil and Strider are both played by the same voice actor. Rob, do you remember who it is?
Yeah. Nathan, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Darren Norris. But you would have heard him if you watched classic TV shows such as Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know.
Survival guy.
Yeah, no, so I swear, like, names have no connection for me in my brain, because, like, the names of anything is just never connected. I can remember details perfectly, but the instant you go, hey, do you know the name to this? I'm like, no. Like, I have to look them up, and the instant I like see it, it's just like, oh yeah, they play this person. I'm like, oh okay, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
who else did they play?
Lord of the Rings game is surprisingly a lot of fun. I was expecting it to at least be a passable experience, but it's really hit or miss with licensed tie-in games like those, but it's actually really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I just played it for the first time last night, so I thought I'd bring it up, but I don't really have much to say about it other than it's just fun so far, and I'm enjoying it.
All right.
Hey, that's good.
So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of similar in that a lot of, most of what I'm playing at any one time is just kind of what I'm always playing. But a little while ago, I picked up the, I think it's like the full name is the Samurai Showdown Neo Geo Collection or something, and it's just like all the Neo Geo Samurai Showdowns, just in like a compilation for modern consoles. So I've been playing a little bit of that. I'm not good at it, but I do enjoy it. Like I like how much, even if I'm not good at the strategy, I like how much strategy there is. Like it's more about, trying to look for those openings and get in good hits, rather than just, pulling off whatever combos all the time. So that's one of the ones I've been playing. And then lately, I've been really getting into a game called Mythic Ocean, which I have not seen get much attention at all.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, it was one of the ones that I thought, because it was on sale for like $2 or $3. Basically, like it's set sort of in the interim between basically the end of one world and the beginning of another, and you're in this kind of primordial ocean, and you just like travel around talking to different creatures, and some of them are gods, and through your conversations it decides who's going to create the new world. And it, you start out, it's a very like chill experience, but the story's really been picking up where I am, and I'm really getting into it. It's really interesting. And that's one, depending on exactly what I play this year, I might be talking more about it at the end of the year.
Sneak peek to our end of year game of the year.
But yeah, I realized I should really just play anything where you're underwater. So they're all uniformly great experiences.
Yeah, we should play Subnautica.
Yeah.
I actually really fucking love Subnautica, so I'm 100% down for playing Subnautica. That'd be great.
Alright, so yeah, that's what we've been playing. Which means it's time to get to the main topic.
Alright.
So as we said, that's the sort of decline of E3 in recent years. So I guess the first thing we need to sort of answer is, when did E3 start declining?
Alright, boys. I'm feeling spicy.
So do we have any thoughts on that?
Oh boy, do I ever.
2016.
2016? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I'm kind of feeling 2019.
It was declining
Okay.
before the leaks.
Oh, it was declining before the leaks, but the leaks started really speeding it up.
Yes.
Like, I feel that it was starting to decline, but I think it was still like a manageable thing that they could come back from. Like, if they were going to be smart about it, when the leaks started hitting, I think that was kind of like the cliff where it's like, now this is fucking done.
I don't know. So every company leaks these days. Like the company I work for recently got hacked and had a bunch of personal information taken.
Yeah.
So
The only difference is that like E3 was intentionally stupid with their data. Like I've been getting, because like I've been doing a lot of data work with like YYC Tech and Data for Good and all that. And so I've been learning a lot about like, hey, this is how you properly manage like data. This is how you like ways to like preventative methods, or if you do get hacked, like ways to minimize the impact and all that. They were fucking doing nothing. They were literally like, here's a spreadsheet and you can copy it. And it's like about as low effort as you could be when it comes to data management. Like, I have a newfound appreciation for just how bad they fucked up their data management when it came to E3. But that's my little rant. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Okay,
But
so
I am curious, Tom, why do you say 2016?
2016 was the first year E3 made almost no money. And then 2017 was when they opened to the public. And I think opening to the public...
2017 was one of the big points that I could find when I was just kind of researching.
Yeah, their attempt to adapt to the online era we now live in was by opening their doors to the public instead of closing it to the press only. But that was due to so many members of the press already not giving a shit about E3 in 2016. So in 2017, they opened to the public, and that's when it became really inconvenient and stupid to go to E3 in person, because that was, to me, the people who would attend E3 would, like, just consumers, would have to wait in excruciatingly long lines for just mere minutes of game time on upcoming products, which caused difficulties even for members of the press that were still involved with E3 and online content creators. I guess that's kind of the same thing, for them to get their own hands on the product, help spread the word about them through their platforms.
Yeah.
Which just caused a lot of content creators especially to simply refrain from attending from that point on and just cover the press conferences that were already conveniently being live streamed to the public to try to keep interest in E3 up. That's when I feel it personally just went downhill, was 2016 and 2017, just because the industry has changed how information gets released to the public, and trade shows like E3 aren't needed for software and hardware to be showcased to the public anymore. Social media at large has kind of made E3 obsolete.
Yeah, I found an article, where was it, on Inverse, from when they first announced that E3 2022 is cancelled. The author, Joseph Yaden, he's got sort of the perspective of going to E3 both as a fan and as a journalist. So he says 2017, you basically could not get anywhere. The lines were just crazy. The whole thing was packed. Then later, when he was in media, it helped having appointments with officials from the companies. But yeah, the show floor was basically unworkable, from what he said.
Yeah, consumers don't need. They don't seem to see the need for a trade show and have, the press or content creators go hands-on with products, even hardware, as much.
Yeah.
As most people have a strong enough sense of what the hardware must feel like now or how it operates, that they're willing to purchase it based on faith in the product and expectations of quality. Like, somebody who absolutely loved both the PS3 and PS4 doesn't need to be convinced to buy a PS5, and there's no reason for Sony to have GameSpot and IGN and Kotaku and whoever play Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and explain to them how a PS5 controller works so that they can tell the public, because everybody looks at it and goes, oh, it's the PS4 controller more refined. It's the same, but better. So you don't need to convince them to buy a PS5 anymore. And that was the whole point of something like a trade show, was to show this is a Nintendo 64, this is what games are going to look and play like. None of you know what a joystick does, so let's show you what a joystick does. And that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, the show floor can still serve a valuable purpose, like, especially for really high profile stuff. Just, at least for journalists, getting their hands on things, seeing exactly how it works. But yeah, I think both because of, the ability to kind of do their own things, and just because of sort of the negativity that can come around from that kind of thing, I think companies like Sony, Microsoft, whatever, probably just don't really feel the need to go to E3.
Yeah. And it's all valid points. I still feel like if they were smart, they could have pivoted to like.
Yeah, there was definitely a point where they could have, you know, changed what it was, kind of like they did in 2017, but just have been smarter.
Yeah. And like, so like, I totally agree that 2016, 2017, that's kind of like the decline. That's definitely where it started to like drop. But I still say that like 2019 was when it kind of hit the edge of the cliff, because where people were hesitant before because it was backed up and just an absolute mess. Just organizational wise, they could have dealt with it, but because they suddenly had all the security issues and it got exposed on like just how little they were like they basically cared for not only like the folks that were attending the thing, but also like how poorly they were managing their data and everything in the back end. I think that was kind of like the bad press that made people and a lot of like companies and a lot of journalists kind of go, well, now we have zero trust in these people, and even if they do start to improve, nobody wants to go because like their entire structure is shit, and we don't have any faith in them actually being able to pivot, because they didn't show that they were going to pivot on their when it came to the structure of the show. And so I think that's just when it kind of was like the death blow for it, because after that everybody really started pulling out and doing their own thing because they just didn't want to deal with E3 and the administration anymore because of just how bad it was.
And there probably was something they could have done to kind of improve their image for the next year. Unfortunately for them, the next year was 2020.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, having to cancel E3 then, and then having all these like other, you know, smaller online events kind of pop in, that really hurt them.
Yeah. Like there's another dude on YouTube I usually look at a lot of news when it comes to it, like Mr. Matty. And he even pointed out way back then that like they could have done improvements, they could have done all that after all the leaks, but because 2020 came rolling in and the pandemic, just because of that, like it was an absolute just, it murdered it, because even if they did want to improve, like other companies made their own stuff so they could like, so people didn't have to get all together and have disease. And because it kind of forced the industry to update and go with the times, E3 didn't have the chance to kind of show any improvement, which from the sounds of it, they didn't actually do much for improvement to begin with. But they didn't, and it was just like the death blow, because like they didn't try to do it, they didn't have a chance to show it even if they did try. And the rest of the companies were just like, well, fuck it, we're going to do our own thing because we wouldn't be able to do E3 anyways. And a lot of them did it a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the cost of having a huge conference and booths on a show floor caught up to the big three, being Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Especially in this online social media age we're in, where why would you pay money to have a booth and a conference when you can instead just have like an edited, curated video like a Nintendo Direct to make all of your announcements in a controlled environment?
And to do it on your own timeline.
Yeah.
So that, you know, you're not getting lost in, you know, however many games are announced at, you know, this 1 week thing. You can just choose, okay, well, like nothing else is sucking up the oxygen here, so, you know, we'll do like our state of play or our direct now.
I'd also think we're beyond the point of do you remember, I think it was E3 2002, it might have been 2001 or 2003, I don't remember, but it was the Wind Waker live demo where Miyamoto was up on stage playing a chunk of a dungeon. Did you ever see that?
I don't think I did.
So he was up on stage, and I can't remember. I think it was the Fire Temple in that game. I don't remember, but he was showcasing Wind Waker, being like, "Oh, look at how this controls. Look at the frame rate. Blah blah blah." Right? and there was a glitch that caused a door to not open. And he had to improv live on stage about like, look at how his hat flows in the wind, because he meant to keep going but couldn't because a door wouldn't open. And famously, one of the only videos of Miyamoto furious are of that. Someone filmed him behind the stage getting mad at like the dev team for not finding that glitch before he was live on stage. And as much as I love those types of historical E3 moments like that, companies like Nintendo don't want that. So that's why something like a Nintendo Direct works for them, because they can control what you see.
So
Yeah, like you think back, none of the really viral moments were, things going well. It was either things breaking down or just, weird little moments like my body is ready.
Or fucking Sony owning Sega. Do you remember that one?
No.
Sega showcased the Sega Saturn, and I can't remember the exact prices, but it was like they gave the price of $299.95 or something like that. And then the head of Sony at the time just walked up to the same podium, because E3 at the time was one presentation stage and they all just shared it. So they walked off the stage, and then a bunch of trailers for PlayStation 1 games showed, and they graphically looked way better. And then the head of Sony at the time just walked up to the microphone, and all he said was $199, and then walked away. It was a total just mic drop moment. But stuff like that doesn't happen anymore, because even the competitors are like, we got to play nice, we got to be polite, and those types of like E3 moments that I would hate to see go away, they've already gone away. E3's not keeping them around.
Yeah.
There is a fun thing when it comes to just shit that kind of goes wrong during your like press showcases. There's one company I fucking love to watch, which is Lauren Studios, because they are not afraid to kind of like show off what they're doing, and they'll do like just like play on whatever build they have to just kind of demonstrate what they got going on. They're
Is that the
fantastic.
Baldur's Gate 3 studio?
Yeah, that's the Baldur's Gate 3 studio. They're the ones who did Divinity Original Sin 2, which is one of my most favorite games of all time. Like, I fucking love that game. But they were doing one when right before they released basically the public beta for Baldur's Gate 3. He was doing a press basically showcase of it. And he was going through it, like, there were a few glitches, and like he'd go like, oh, yep, okay, that needs to be fixed when we get to it. About 10 minutes before their whole press conference ended, and this is all live, the game full-on crashed, just like right to desktop. And his reaction just, oh, well, that was like, it's just like, okay, well, we have 10 minutes left. He's like, I guess that's the end. That's a bug that we're going to have to fix. So just like, I love Lauren Studios press conferences and whenever they're doing stuff, because it's very old-timey, in which they're just playing on whatever build they have. It's not like ironed out to be like perfect for the like for viewing. Like, they're not really covering anything up. It's literally what they have at the time. And so if something goes fucking wrong, they just improv, because they're just like, well, shit. I really love Lauren Studios.
I'm not a fan of that studio.
Yeah, I love them, but to each his own. Like, everybody has their own favorite studios and all that, so I totally get it.
Their games are fine. I think they're a little shady.
They're a little shady, eh?
Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to PlayStation 5, and they said it won't come to Xbox because they can't make it run on the Series S. And then someone has a dev mode enabled Series S, and they got the game to run. So it's clearly not that it won't run. It must be because behind closed doors they maybe worked out a deal with Sony, and Sony's paying them. but they're publicly being like, no, it can't run on Xbox because Xbox is shit. And it's like, no, it's because you either are not willing to port it or Sony's written you a check, in which case you're throwing Microsoft under the bus just to have your own little clout. And I think that's shitty and dumb. My Steam Deck runs Baldur's Gate 3 perfect. There's no way the Series S can't, and it bothers me because they also said something about I think it was Divinity Original Sin 2 that it wouldn't run on the Switch, and then like 3 years later it came out on Switch. And so I feel like that they're just kind of, I don't know. I think they might be run by shitty people. Their games are fine though.
Actually, it is coming to Xbox, they announced. They're just having issues with split screen right now.
Well, then they've backpedaled on that again.
Yeah, but I mean, exclusivity deals are all over this fucking
yes, they
industry,
are.
so.
But that's. I don't want to change the topic of
But
conversation.
At least be upfront with it.
But
no, I get it. It's like not great. It is coming to like computer, all that. The fact that they kind of said it wasn't going to go to Xbox, it is shitty, and they did backpedal on it because it is. Yeah, from looking at it, it is going to be coming to Xbox. They're just right now having issues with split screen, but I think that's kind of a lot of things.
I don't want to deviate too much from the E3 topic, but I do want to bring up, maybe even as like a future topic to discuss, paid exclusivity. I feel like should be public knowledge. I feel like consumers should be allowed to make an informed decision based upon it. Like it should be allowed. It should be legally enforced that the real reason Call of Duty releases 2 weeks early on PlayStation is because Sony wrote us a bigger check. They should be publicly forced to say it, because there's so many backroom deals like these. It's not new. It's been in the industry since its inception. But there's so many backroom deals constantly floating around, and companies like the Baldur's Gate people right just now saying things like it won't run on Xbox, and then it comes to Xbox. That's just, in my opinion, blatant misinformation to the consumer, and they should be penalized for that. And you can argue that Sony's really the bad guy that's probably paying an exclusivity deal, but if that's the case, then I've forgotten that, is it Lauren Studios?
Lauren Studios, yeah.
They should be able to say it's coming to PlayStation for like a year first because Sony paid us, and at least pass the buck to the company that's actually at fault.
Yeah. Like, I totally agree with that. There is a lot of companies that kind of pisses me off. And like some of them are like very much in bed with the company. Like Persona 5, I think just managed to come to PC, and that game's been out like for 5 years.
Well, that one's not
like
an exclusivity. That one's Sega being an idiot.
Yeah, but like it's still a situation of like I would have loved to have this game beforehand, and they like port it over other games. Like the Persona 5 Strikers was on computer and all that, but it was like seriously like I feel like there's a lot of shit, and like Baldur's Gate 3 is a perfect example where a company, I feel like they get paid and then they get a little bit of a bonus if they go, but don't say it's exclusive, there's just an issue with it. And I kind of get that feeling that was the same with like Persona 5 with Sony, because they ported it over, and from what I hear, it works fine. And I don't see why it took 5 years, I'm pretty sure it was 5 years, for that game to come on over to PC. It was like, there definitely was an exclusive thing here.
So
every other fucking Persona thing is on here. Why is Persona 5 not?
So I want to put a pin in this conversation because I don't want us to go too far away from
this will be a different day.
But I think that for Rob's consideration, I think that's a unique topic, is like paid exclusivity and or studios being dumb. The Sega one, there could be exclusivity, but I remember there being reports about when they brought Persona 4 to Steam and it sold really well, and Sega was like, we didn't think people would buy it. And it was like, people have been clamoring for that game to get a re-release for so long. Sega doesn't seem to understand their own properties.
Yeah.
And how much of that is actually like them being stupid and how much of that is like money under the table. That'd be an interesting topic, but we won't get into it now. Back to E3.
Yes. I did want to say the part of the reason why we're talking about E3, I'm wondering if this is E3's last year, or at the very least its last year in its current form.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But
yeah,
the reason why it's suddenly a hot topic with us and a lot of other content creators is particularly because Nintendo, like Rob already said, pulled out this year. I'm pretty sure from what I could find, this is the first year that they've had no presence at E3 since 1995. And I think that's a sign that like this is not needed anymore, and I'm hoping the ESA takes it as such and mixes things up for either next year or just pulls the plug. Because I don't think the big third-party publishers like Square Enix or Bandai Namco and Ubisoft and such, I don't think they generate the hype to keep things going when people are like, oh great, Far Cry 9. I don't think that has the selling power of potentially seeing the Switch 2 or a new Metroid or The Last of Us 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel it.
So one thing I was kind of thinking of as a possible factor in the decline of E3 is the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause it serves a lot of the same purposes that the conferences did. You know, where you're just showing off games. Occasionally, a guy with a flute shows up. You know, just like a little bit of light entertainment. But instead of, you know, oh, the demo went wrong, it's, yeah, we're specifically just like, you know, giving all these games their accolades. And you don't even really need anyone from the company to show up. You know, Miyamoto's not going to the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have a couple of downsides for E3 shutting down. I don't know if we want to get into that yet or if people have more about why they're failing.
Well, I actually had a question that kind of hit along that topic, but I'll see if there's anything else before then. I guess just the pose of the next line of thinking, if Rob is okay with it. Rob, the podcast god.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get like really structured with it. We can go kind of freeform.
That's true.
So like, kind of. Well, I guess I was going to kind of give it a title, if anything.
We don't have to segment it. Rob just said, let's go a little freeform with it, and you're like, okay, let me give it a title.
Look, it's organized freeform, okay?
I think the biggest downside to this is the networking that used to happen at these big events. Like indie studios and developers maybe planning to start an indie studio. They get a lot of foot traffic at their show floor booths, and they would network with big publishers that were at the event. And I think they're the ones that'll feel the biggest hit when something as big as E3 goes down for good. Because bumping into the head of, I don't know, Activision and being able to pitch a game to sort of a thing, that can only happen at in-person events. Because if you're a nobody off the street, Activision or Ubisoft or whoever is not gonna make an appointment for an idea man with the CEO. It has to be at something like E3 where that kind of thing goes down.
Well, that actually leads in pretty well to one sort of topic we could touch on, which is, of course, E3 isn't the only event like this. The main ones that I at least remember the names of were Tokyo Game Show, PAX, and Gamescom, which, at least, you know, from what we've heard reported, don't seem to be having the same issues. So I'm wondering what people think of that, why that might be, or, you know, if it is true that they aren't having the same issues.
I think a Gamescom for sure, but I don't know about the others. But Gamescom moves around, and I wonder if that's part of it.
Actually, Gamescom is always in Cologne.
going to be in Calgary this year.
I mean, it's a European thing.
Maybe it's not Gamescom
Unless
I'm thinking,
they've
but
got like separate
Yeah,
arms.
there's something coming to Calgary this year, and I thought it was Gamescom.
Oh, no, you're probably thinking of the FIS Freestyle World Cup slope style, which I know everyone is.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's a title.
Oh, it's literally just called GameCon.
Oh.
So never mind.
All right.
I'm wrong on that then, but does PAX move around? I feel like they host in different cities from time to time. Someone does.
They've got a few. Well, they've got like a few different conventions. Like there's what is now PAX West, used to be called PAX Prime, and before that was just PAX in Seattle. I think PAX East is always in the same place. And then there's PAX Australia. Let's see.
So PAX at least seems to branch out. I'm almost wondering if part of the problem is that E3 is always at the same convention center in the same city, and I don't know, that's probably not an issue at all for it, but to me, we live in Calgary. I haven't gone to the Calgary Stampede in well over a decade, because it never changes. And I wonder if E3 floating around a little bit might actually make it, oh, you know what, it's been 3 years since I went, because it's been 3 years since it was in my city, I'll go, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so yeah, PAX West, so PAX used to be in San Antonio, PAX West is now in Seattle, and PAX East is always in Boston.
When Microsoft pulled out of E3 for the most part, didn't they used to host their event on the same weekend in a building basically right next to E3? Yeah.
So Microsoft unofficially pulled out of E3 years ago, but still support it. Because they officially would do their conference, and they would actually communicate with E3 and make it so that the conference didn't overlap with any other major events happening. And then inside the Microsoft hall, they would do like a show floor, and you could get access to it by having an E3 pass. So even though
that's going to get affected by this.
So yeah, even though they weren't technically a part of E3, they still supported it. And that's partially why this conversation, as heavily as it has been this year with other content creators, hasn't really come up when Sony and Microsoft pulled out. I think the reason why it's the final nail in the coffin is that Nintendo's now pulled out. Because Nintendo always had showroom floor, but they haven't had a conference in years because they just do their E3 directs.
Yeah.
But now they're not even going to have anything on the showroom floor. Dude, does the big three have a presence at like Gamescom and PAX and stuff, or is it just indie? 'Cause I know PAX is really big for indie studios.
Yeah, so from what I could find, they didn't have much of a presence at PAX the last couple years. There's an expectation they might show up again, like for the next one or one down the road, something like that. But I don't think they ever had like the same kind of presence that they had at E3.
I'm looking at like pictures from it, and there's like an Xbox booth area. Like I think there's a Sony one too, from what I'm seeing.
At PAX?
Yeah. But it's like there's still like small sections of Xbox and PlayStation, but they're like small sections of the total one. So yeah, it looks like they have like a presence, but I wouldn't call it like a massive
Moral support.
Yeah, they're kind of there for moral support. They're really a very small section compared to the rest of PAX, from what I'm seeing.
Well, I think that could be one factor, why a lot of these shows aren't necessarily in the same kind of crisis as E3. They're just smaller scale.
Yeah, like E3 really did kind of rely, like they had a lot of presence from the big three, and when they started pulling out,
Yeah, like these other shows, it's a lot of smaller developers, when the console manufacturers have a presence, it's, some reps at a booth. They don't have to fly a president out to give a whole presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's
it's
probably
just-
even cheaper than that because they're probably not even like normally on Nintendo's payroll. They're probably people for some sort of third-party firm that Nintendo's like, we just need some bodies, and they're like, yep, we got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
like
could
a
be.
lot of third parties and like small ones. Like Blizzard Entertainment has a bigger booth than Xbox and Sony. So yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at screenshots of fucking PAX now. Look at all these people. Or after pandemic, I look at this and go, disease.
But yeah, like that's another thing is, like, just based on some mostly rough estimates that I could find, all of these conventions had lower attendance in the last few years.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, like Gamescom, it was nice. IGN actually had a little table with all sorts of statistics about Gamescom. So they had lower attendance last year, but pretty much the same number of exhibitors. But yeah, I think just because it is kind of a smaller scale operation.
Do they have much of an online presence, like in the same way that E3 would always stream the conferences?
So I know Tokyo Game Show did kind of like a hybrid, live stream and physical thing the last couple of years. Let's just do a little quick searching on YouTube, see what comes up.
I'm just wondering if they're more adapted to the digital age than E3 is.
Or it might even just be that, without the really big conferences, they don't necessarily need to adapt in the same way.
That's true.
Because I know, like, it's not the same kind of thing, but like GDC streams a lot of their conferences.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like there are, like, Jeff Keighley does an opening night live stream for Gamescom. There's the Future Games Show that got live streamed last year. What about PAX?
Wait a fucking second. What is that? I see this image. Sorry, I'm getting very
I have
Warhammer Online.
my only
God, wasn't that supposed to be a...
my only big bullet points I have left on my little notes I made are little things I came up with for can it be saved? And I just realized I apparently at some point in all caps wrote make E3 great again. I'd buy that hat.
Yeah, it kind of pops into like what I was kind of going to say was either like aspects of E3 you might miss / things that they could kind of like lean into to maybe bring it back was kind of what I was thinking of earlier. Yeah, Tom, if you actually have notes, because I don't on this bit. How would you make E3 great again?
For nostalgia's sake, if they were to try to keep kind of a show floor type thing, I would do an in-person show floor for the people, basically the people who have tickets and stuff if they want to still go, but I would have a digital show floor that was streamed, and it's like maybe VR might be the way to go for that, but have a digital show floor where you can go to different booths and play game demos through your console. Like, don't force developers to put it.
Yeah.
Don't force developers to put demos on the PlayStation Network or Xbox Marketplace or Nintendo Store, but do like a stream where if you're streaming the event through your PS5 or something, it can recognize that, or your PC, it doesn't matter, but it can recognize that and make it so that you can play a demo that would have been at E3 anyway by streaming it to your console or your PC or whatever. And then you can still get the online buzz going of like, I played this and this was great, or I played this and this was shit. But by removing that in-person aspect and going digital with it.
Yeah. So it's not exactly the same, because you do have to actually download the demos. But Steam does kind of a similar thing. Like they had Next Fest just wrap up.
Yeah. Well, I was also, because another thing that Steam does, which I like, is kind of on that area, is that some games Steam does allow you to kind of like do like co-op games. A person who doesn't own the game can, like, as long as someone owns the game, you can send them an invite, and then the other person basically, I don't think it's like a straight download to your computer. It's kind of like playing through the other person's computer. And you can co-op that way, which is pretty neat. And I'm wondering if maybe that's a way they could do it.
I mean, as we found out, there are certain technical limits to that approach.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong. There are definitely some technical limits, but like expanding on it maybe, or just like maybe a idea for it would be kind of like a digital queue if you want to try something. So you can have like a server and a lot of like basically processing for people to stream it, but so it doesn't kind of murder itself from people overusing it, and you just don't have the processing power. Like a digital queue to be like, all right, if you want to try this game, it'll be like approximately this long until like you'll like fucking be able to, so you know you can go watch videos or other announcements going on, and then when it's your turn, it'll just give you a little ping and be like, hey, you're in queue for this. Do you want to play it now or postpone it or whatever? And then if postpone, you go back into the queue or whatever.
Yeah.
So that could be an idea.
They could even go smaller than that, not necessarily have, you know, playable streaming demos, but just, you know, partner with Twitch streamers or other content creators and say,
oh,
you know,
yeah, that'd be a great idea, actually.
Yeah, like have them, you know, provide a demo to, I don't know, like Markiplier or whoever, and have them say like, yeah, okay, so I'll be live streaming this at like 2 p.m. this Saturday or whatever. So, you know, everybody get in, hop in the chat, whatever.
Smash it out.
I was thinking of, they would never do it. I'm a particular kind of person that would be fascinated by this, but I think I'm a minority. But I think it'd be so cool if E3 tried to be more of a industry-wide celebration of the industry and do things like developer interview live streams that cross studio borders. Like have like Miyamoto with Gabe Newell and Casey Hudson talking about each other's games. Or like Casey Hudson with Glenn Schofield and Yoshio Sakamoto. Like just, I want to see like, I want to see Miyamoto and Gabe Newell talk about how they changed the industry, and then just, I don't know, I'm fascinated by that kind of thing, but I don't think any of them would necessarily want to.
It's hard to say, because I mean they don't get like that kind of scale of personality, but that is to a large extent what GDC is.
Yeah, it can be quite the personal person, or quite the person when it comes to that. Gabe Newell is fucking hilarious.
I always have to remind myself that Gabe Newell and Notch are different people.
Yeah, Notch is the one that went
like,
absolutely
I hear
batshit
people say like,
insane.
"Oh, Gabe Newell seemed cool." And, oh, really? I don't know about that. But
Yeah.
no, that's
No.
the other like former gaming pulp hero.
Yeah, no, those. Oh god, I had a conversation about Notch earlier. Just
You,
like, hey,
you
remember
guys
when
keep
Notch
going.
went
I don't want to
absolutely
derail the
fucking insane?
podcast, but I can hear the dog barking. I need to go see why.
All right,
I'll be right back.
But yeah, there was like kind of on Tom's topic of like a celebration of gaming. I always hear people, and there's like a bunch of people kind of doing reflections back on E3 now, because, well, it kind of started in 2020 because everybody just kind of assumed it was dead. But even back then, people were like, especially in like the older days, there was a lot of like grandstanding and showing each other up, but there was also like this kind of aspect where E3 kind of felt like a celebration. So it's kind of the only like trade show running that was like big back then. And because of that, you usually had like big names and people going in and talking about like the products and like how they're changing and mixing stuff up and like their dreams for the future and all that and what they want to do next. And it kind of had like a celebration of gaming feel that kind of really dropped off when we got into like later 2000s into like the 2010s.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the niche that the Game Awards have taken over.
Yeah, and that's really what the Game Awards have taken over. I'm definitely 100% agree with that. One thing I wonder, which would really help, is maybe you literally just make it exclusive back to like journalists. Because like Tom is right that the start of the decline happened when people like it got opened up to the public. And like sure E3 kind of made a lot of money doing that, but it got so overcrowded and stuff got super overshadowed and it was just chaos.
Yeah, it just wasn't set up for it.
Yeah, no, and they never improved on it. I really think making it more exclusive back to like having game journalists, but also like streamers and the like would probably be a better idea, because so many other groups already do like the open booth, everybody can come in, like pay for your pass, and like you can try out games. Everybody else got that covered, but having like a area where like exclusively journalists can come in and talk about it, and you can have bigger name, or it doesn't even have to be bigger name, like just streamers in general. If you have like a certain amount of following, having people come in and then they can try it and give like the general gist of how they're feeling about these games that they're interested in, like, and like you can funnel it down even more, because like streamers that like doing like strategy games, like you can organize it by like, all right, well, if this is their niche, then do you want to come in and try these new strategy games in 2023, bruh? And like then they kind of go in, try it out, and give their recommendations to like their bigger fan base and like basically hype it up. So I wonder if maybe taking away the full open everybody come in and making it back to like exclusive, it's basically now like back to being a trade show, might be the way to save it, because that's kind of where not a lot of other shows are kind of hitting that mark.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know of any dedicated just trade show ones for games.
Yeah. I think, is Gamescom open to the public?
I'm Googling that right now.
Yes. Me too. First I'll spell it right, so I'm Googling Gamescom and not Gamescom.
They call it Games Kim. It's like, that's not right.
Oh, it does mention a unique festival character, so...
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, far-reaching and consistent protection of minors. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it is open to the public.
Yeah, so like you don't really have like a dedicated trade show anymore. And so I'm wondering if that's where they would be able to kind of shift and basically go back to, which there's a lot of times I don't think this is always the best idea, but in E3's case, going back to ye old days might actually be the one saving grace that they could do.
The one kind of question with that is then, you know, you run into the problem of, do they even want to send off, you know, the executives or whatever off to this trade show?
Yeah.
When they can just do their own digital event.
which would be interesting, but there is a kind of aspect that I look at this, where when it comes to digital events, you still need to be entertaining. There's a very front-end entertainment value, and where basically a trade show shines is instead of having to be entertaining throughout the entire thing, people will get the opportunity to talk about less interesting stuff. So basically, they could go into more detail on like how certain systems are running, or like how yada yada is implemented in so said game that might not have the entertaining value, but when it's presented to journalists and like bigger streamers and all that, they can then kind of take that information and bring it into their own form of entertainment. Basically, it's allowing bigger names and people to kind of filter out what they want to focus on and turn it into their own entertainment value for what their kind of niche group is focused in. So sorry, but yeah, that's kind of like what I'm seeing, because we don't really have that anymore. A lot of it has to be like, oh, this is what the game looks like, and this is kind of how it plays. And it would be interesting to kind of dig into like kind of like the development aspect and like the back-end systems aspect a bit more. Like if a company is doing something cool, oh god, off the top of my head, kind of like how Battle Group VR is actually excellent for this, because I have never had a game with a voice recognition software be so damn accurate to what I'm saying. Like, even me panic, like, calling, like, Bluetooth, shield's full, it still understands me going, like, Bluetooth, shield's full. And it's like, I don't know how, but I would find it wicked interesting to understand how this one dude managed to make a voice recognition software where, sure, there is a lot of filtering down, where unlike Alexa, like, you have to take into the full consideration of things everybody's saying it, where you can probably filter it down a lot more to be more accurate into like the situation in this game. But it'd still be so fucking interesting to me to hear someone go, yeah, so the way I did this was like these filters and like blah blah blah, and the result is like a voice recognition that is far better than fucking Alexa trying to figure out if you're asking for like guacamole or fucking guacamole or something. Like, what? Hey, Tom.
I came back a little while ago, but you were on a good diatribe. But like how you couldn't think of something to pair with guacamole. So many better really examples I could have gone. Like, why did I choose guacamole? But like, Alexa fucks up all the time for me. And I don't own one because Alexa can't understand what I'm goddamn saying. Because like I'm not sure if I ever mentioned, because I have ADHD, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that. But one of the like hard points and why I fuck up a lot what I'm saying is because my brain goes so much faster than my mouth. And so sometimes I have the issue of my brain being 5 steps ahead and my mouth going, hold on, what was step 2? and I get like this paralyzed mode of brain backtrack, where was step 2? So yeah, it's just interesting. Like, I would love for having the more trade show focused one, because then it does supply interesting snippets where other people like streamers and all that and news outlets can focus in and go, hey, this is something cool that might not be of a entertainment value in the moment,
but would be a neat thing to kind of develop and explore and make your own speculation later on.
So I think the question there is, is that something that people would want from E3, or is it basically kind of redundant with GDC?
Yeah. And, like, I'm not sure, because it would be one of those things that you probably have to, like, test.
Yeah.
Because, like, GDC is great, but maybe there is, like, an unexplored, like, bit where they could go deeper, essentially. You can deeper. We can dig deeper.
Inception.
Binds Moria. I was going with it's Moria, not Inception, but yeah.
Yeah,
Especially you just don't want to hit the Balrog.
Most of the things we can probably come up with to improve E3, there might already be an alternative that offers it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is there are so many, smaller, more specialized events going on.
Yeah. Like the main...
Is there really much room for E3 to kind of squeeze into a new niche?
Yeah. And the main thing that I think that they could probably do it better than most others is because at least currently they still have the name recognition.
Yeah.
That can drop off in a year or two real damn quick.
Well, and it can become a liability if, say, they don't really knock it out of the park this year.
And it can. And like sure, they have a lot of baggage that they would have to work through. But it's kind of one of those moments that E3 is at a point in their business where they need to make a pivot fast, because if this E3 is not that great, I'm pretty sure they will only have one last year to be like panic swap in which they might to recover. Like, I'm pretty sure if they don't hit a good point this year, next year is going to be the last chance, like the last throw, like the last go at it. Because after that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be dead. Like, I'm pretty sure zero recovery if they don't hit this year or the next one, and the next one will be a fucking challenge if they fuck up this year.
If this year goes to shit, do you think they will even attempt next year?
Unless they have a good pivot and they have a solid plan, I don't think so. Honestly, I think they'll just save their money because they're owned by a whole new company. I'm pretty sure if this doesn't work out, the company's just going to can it. Like, if they have no plan, I'm pretty sure it's just going to get canned. But of course, that's speculation. I don't know if they have a new plan that's going to work up, so... I mean, like a year they could go, hey, we changed this for next year. But, I don't know. It's just my business analysis degree kind of... Well, business degree kind of hitting there. Just I'm pretty sure this is going to be the last one if they don't have a drastic change or a solid plan. If this one goes to shit, I'm pretty sure it's going to get canned. I don't think they'll want to spend the money on it. Which would be sad, because E3 is for all its flaws, it was still kind of a point in gaming history. And even though they fucked up, and I'm not really all there with E3 because E3's really kind of shit the bed, I still do have those memories of 2011, 2012, when we'd watch E3 coverage, and then Palm and I would start freaking out about a new thing coming out. So there's that nice little, it's the nice little nostalgia that's still slightly there. And it's not dead yet. But it's getting close. The cart's coming. I hear the bell. Bring out your dead.
The thing is, even if E3 itself doesn't stick around, I mean, like we were discussing, there's things that can kind of fill the void.
Oh,
I'm sure
totally.
someone will attempt something similar in the future.
Like, I'm pretty sure if it goes down, PAX and Gamescom are going to be like the next big ones. I'm pretty sure they'll fill that void.
Yeah. So, do we have anything else to say on the topic?
Are there any... Is there anything you think... Or I guess, better way to phrase it, are there any fond memories or points that you kind of like look at and go, I fucking love that in E3?
I mean, pretty much anytime there's a new big reveal of some kind, like, I never thought Metroid Dread would ever exist, and then it got revealed at E3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned it earlier, but I still... It might just be that bit in me that just loves the chaos in the world. But I really did love, especially like late 2000s, early 2011, when companies were still like, they toned it down a bit, but when they would still throw shade at each other. Like, what was the scene when the Xbox One got revealed, and then PlayStation had a witty comeback to that? God damn it! What was that?
They weren't going to do physical games, and so they had this huge way that you could account share, so you could share games with your friends. And then Sony had a thing where they're like, "Here's how you share games on PlayStation," and they just handed each other a disc.
Yeah, I fucking love that. Like those little moments where like games companies did start having to cooperate, but they still weren't afraid to throw the like shade at each other. Just love that.
Yeah, honestly, like, looking back, there isn't really anything except for, the occasional, like, awkward presentation that then gets kind of goes viral. There wasn't really anything specific to E3 for me.
No.
Like the reveals and all the comments, really, they could do that anywhere.
Yeah,
that's true.
But I also say that as someone who, for a lot of years, just kind of, read stuff about E3 after the fact. Didn't really keep up with it as it was going.
Yeah. Wow.
yeah. I don't think I have much more to offer on the topic at the moment.
It's nice to know that we have another topic to fucking throw at all next time.
Why is Sega dumb?
Exclusivity's a bitch, eh?
A year-long series.
A recurring monthly topic.
Oh, Sega.
What did Sega do now?
Oh, Ubisoft is another one that I'd probably be like, here's another fucking weekly Ubisoft shit the bed moment.
No. Yeah, theirs isn't as fun to talk about. It's mostly a lot of, like, workplace misconduct.
It is. Sega's just plain and just hilarious stupidity. Ubisoft is fucking dark ass motherfucker shit. But yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it. We've solved the problem.
E3, just do everything we talked about or didn't talk about and fix it.
Yeah. Fix your shit, you scrub. Nerd.
You fucking nerds.
Fucking nerd.
I want to see Miyamoto, Gabe Newell, Glenn Schofield, Yoshio Sakamoto. I want to see them all play D&D. That's how you fix E3. Live stream them playing D&D.
Oh my god, I would watch
They
that.
have to play
Jesus
D&D
Christ.
as characters they've created. So Miyamoto has to be Mario with Mario's powers.
What would Mario's powers be? Would he be a fighter?
That sounds like a good question to ask our fans in the comments below. Would Mario be a fighter in D&D? What class would he be?
Yeah.
Or Thaumaturge. No, is the what's the inventor one?
Inventor?
Well, they have different names. I play Pathfinder and Pathfinder 2. Well, I'm starting Pathfinder 2, but I know Pathfinder classes a lot better than 5e classes, but I can't remember what it was.
Rob, I think that's my favorite recurring joke of yours. Where you just
What is?
Where you just point out like the answer was in the statement.
Yeah.
No. Is that a recurring joke?
It's just something you
yeah.
do. It's not
It really
exactly
is.
the same thing, but
I myself am a joke.
I was rewatching our Mass Effect 2 playthrough because I was prepping our save file for Mass Effect 3 in the Legendary Edition because we're going to transition over. And
Yeah.
I got to the episode, I think it's episode 21 or something around there, where we talk to the Erdnot scout, and we have Morden with us, and the shepherd goes up to him and says, "I'm looking for a Solarian," and then you jump in immediately as the Krogan, "There's one right there!" 'Cause it's Morden. And it just really, really hit me. Aren't I a good scout?
Yeah, those are beautiful moments. Also, I think the one I was thinking of, at least in Pathfinder terms, is the occultist, because like there's fighting ability, Mario jumping on dudes' heads, but also like you pick up power-ups, which would kind of be like your implements. You pick up this fucking thing that shoots fireball. That's how you do. Wear a cape, float away. Yeah,
All right,
but
so
anyways.
that's yeah. So if you take anything from this, it's we have all the answers. I'm very funny personally, and it's an occultist, and that's
is
it.
the occultist.
Make us whole again. Join Unitology.